All right, so I keep, and I'm sorry if you guys couldn't have, if you guys haven't heard me this whole time. I had my, okay, so, all right, now we have the issues once again. My apologies. I've been talking this whole time. Hopefully you guys can see the test that we've been going through, different scenarios on how this is working. Um, and what I'll have to do is basically what we're doing is just trying different scenarios. For this last one, um, teams are going to switch. This is a scenario where players, you know, they want to switch teams. They're not happy with their team and they want to change. All right, so this one is like, okay, you know, player doesn't want to be on team 2 anymore. So they can go ahead and switch their team. And let's say other player wants to remain on team 2. You can see that now they are split and they're on individual teams and they're going to be teleported to separate teams. So sorry about the first half where again, my mic, I don't know what's going on with that. Um, but I was just basically explaining the different scenarios. So as you can see, the system is working. What we're doing basically is re-going over the save, load, teams across rounds system for Fishy in the Creative Block Discord. And because they were having a little bit of issues on round 2 and the players were not teleporting. So now that you've seen all the play tests and you've seen how it's working, we're going to go ahead and go through the settings in a brief breakdown of how this is working. All right, so first a brief breakdown of how this is working. This is very similar to the system which you see in my main tutorial, except it's a little bit broken down because I just kind of rebuilt it from scratch. As far as how everything's working, players are spawned in on a global team and they have a few seconds to choose a team. When they choose a team, there's going to be a number displayed that shows how many players is on that team. My previous tutorial had a limiter, meaning like only a certain amount of players are on the team. If you're going to be setting that up with the system, be sure to watch that tutorial. Not including it in this one because it's not the problem that Fishy was having, so it's not covered here. However, if you do need to limit the amount of players on the team, be sure to check out that tutorial. There's 2 timers. One is the game timer and one is to choose your team timer. We have round setting devices for each round. This brief tutorial only has 3 rounds. If you're going to have more than 3 rounds, be sure to accommodate your map according to your needs by adding more round devices. This represents the first round, and these represents rounds 2 and rounds 3. You see there's a timer behind these 2 because it's connected to these 3. You're going to need, I'm sorry, these 2. My apologies. You're going to need 1 timer connected to each round device after round 1. Okay, so round 2 is connected to this timer. Round 3 is connected to this timer. This timer gives the players a notification that teams are loading and will be loaded in 7 seconds. When 7 seconds goes down, it's going to start the game start timer, and the game will start in 7 seconds. When that happens, we have 2 mutator zones here. And one is to load the teams, which happens after 7 seconds. And then after the game start timer ends, we're going to teleport the players. So that's very important to have 2 of these. In addition to that, your island settings. if you're doing this type of map, you want to ensure that you have the amount of teams that you're going to have on your map, including any global teams, and team size set to dynamic, because your devices will be setting the amount of players on your teams. Make sure your rounds, are fully accommodated, and you have the same amount of round devices that you have set on your rounds, as you see here. When the teams or the game is started, this teleporter here will enable, and they'll be teleported to their game areas, to the teleporters they're assigned to. So that's basically the layout or structure of the game. And again, this is a little bit more simplified compared to my main tutorial mechanic, because that one was actually like a full game, a full beginning game with 4 teams, and this one's just 2. So now that you know all that, let's go ahead and go through the settings. I'm going to pull them up. I won't be speaking them individually because I want to save my voice, but be sure to follow along. If you need to pause it, be sure to do that as well. First of all, let's go through devices just to make sure you're covered, and then we'll go through the settings. You're going to need a class selector device. Yo, Scott, what's up? Just read your response to my question about the list hunt. Thank you so much. Fantastic. Great to hear. I can't wait to see what you do, dude. So you're going to need a class selector device, one for your global team, and one for each team in your map, right? So I have one for team 1, blue, and one for team 2, red. You're going to need player spawner pads, channel device, and of course round settings device, timers, mutator zones. And I just have this here for myself. It reminds me of the logs that we use in UEFN, and this can basically let me know that the events are being called. If you have any issues in your map and you're not sure if the event is being called, connect a message feed device or use a channel device and set it to a global event name, and you can see if the event's being called, and you can determine which devices are not receiving those events. So this is very helpful, and this is just here for to make sure the system is working properly. Next, you're going to need score managers, and again, channel devices. You see I have 2. A save point device, which is your main beast in this game structure, and I have a message feed device. This again is just for informational purposes to ensure that my events are being called. So if I was to publish this map, I probably wouldn't have these. I would probably delete them, but up to you. All right, so now let's go through the settings. We're going to start with the player spawner pads. And let's do that. So this is player spawner for team 1. You always want to have one pad that's designated to team 1. And let's go through those settings. So when a player spawn, we're sending an event to the channel device, and this is basically act like our main transmitter, right? When they spawn, it's going to transmit on this device. And for the player spawner for team our player 2, and you can notice the difference is the player team is set to any compared to it being set to team 1 for the very first one. And again, you can see it's going to the same device, which is right here. And it should be already binded there for you. And then on receive transmit, we're going to send an event to all these devices. So if you want to make sure you drop these devices down first and name them, and then it'll be easier for you to link them up. But you can see we're going to be sending an event to the teleporter to enable it. And this is teleporter for Team 2, Class 2. Mutator zone device. Teleporter to disable it, so that's the teleport mutator zone device. And we're going to also enable teleporter for Team 1, Class 1. We're going to enable the timer device for the game start timer. Again, we're enabling these devices, but we're not starting them, okay? Message feed device is also going to be enabled. And again, this is optional. Score manager is going to be enabled in enabling the score manager. And then we need to change them both, or all the players, to global class. So that's what this is here for. Class selector global, change player to team and class as soon as they're spawned in. And then we're going to enable the class selector for Team 1. All right, let's look at the global class. All right, and two functions which should already be binded, and you should see that there. They're going to change player to team and class right when they spawn in. And that's it. All right, so we covered spawn paths, the spawning event channel device, and the global class selector. Let's go ahead and cover the class selector for teams. So this is for class selector Team 1. And again, this should be binded already. And when the team is switched, we're going to send an event to save their team. So this, I have another channel device, which is going to send an event. And then increment the score manager assigned to this class selector, which is right here. And again, to make it easier, you can always name your devices what you see here to follow along a little bit better. All right, let's go ahead to Team 2, and then we'll check out how it saves. So it's class 2 and team 2 that's going to be switched to. And again, the activating team is global team. That way teams cannot, basically, if they're on a global team, they can't go and they can choose, but once they choose and they're switched to a different team and class, they won't be able to choose again. Again, when they switch, we're going to save. So that's going to be sent to the channel save event, and the score manager to increment by 1, which is right here. All right, cool. Now let's go to the save events. We have a channel device for that. And I have a broadcast global event name called Player Pick Team. We're going to transmit when receiving from the class selector when the team is switched for team 1 and for team 2. When that happens, when that event happens, we're going to send an event to the message feed device to activate, and then we're going to save the player. All right, we're just going to save the team on this one. And let's take a look at that save device. Again, we're just saving team on this one. However, if you're doing something different for your game, be sure to accommodate it for your needs. Now, everything here should be binded. We have to save player when receiving from the channel save event device. However, we're going to load the player from the timer device, team loader when it is successful, and lastly, the mutator zone when it's round 2 and 3 when player entering the zone. All right, and then message feed device. If you want to see that, again, this is optional. I have a message that's going to display in the feed that team has been saved. And activate when receiving from channel device, the channel save event when it receives a transmit. And enable when the first player in the game spawns into the game. All right, so we've covered that. Next, let's get to the timers. So we have 2 timers here. We have game start and choose team. When players start for round 1, this is the timer they should see, right? When players start for round 2 and 3, this is the timer they should see. So let's go ahead and we're going to do these 2 timers, and then we're going to move down to the rounds. Then we're going to move to mutator zones. All right, so choose team. Again, this is the only timer that's going to start at game start. All right, when it is successful, we're going to send an event to the game start timer to start, letting the players know that the game is about to begin. And that's this one right here. All right, start when receiving from timer device when that is successful, and that's the timer that we just went over. And then lastly, we need to also connect this to start from the timer device team loader, which starts in rounds 2 and 3. So that's going to start when that timer is done loading teams on success. Again, this will be enabled when the first player spawns into the game. That's very important as well. And should already be connected if you've done that and you've placed all your devices. For events on success, we're going to send an event to the mutator zone to teleport the players. So we're going to make sure we enable that. All right, let's check out the round settings. All right, so we have round 1, round 2, and round 3. All right, and now round 2. Wait, I'm gonna make sure I didn't miss anything. All right, cool. Right now, round 2. Again, if you need to put these things here, you can. It's all optional. What we're really looking at are the events and the round settings. So with events, you want to, on round start for round 2, start the timer device for the team loader, as you see here. And make sure that is assigned to every round after round 1. And here's round 3. And again, you see that is also connected to the timer device team loader. So let's check that out. All right, again, start when receiving from round setting device for round 2 and round settings device for round 3. And if you have around 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, or 10, then of course you're going to include those there, or just connect it to a channel device, which is going to send an event to all of them from rounds 2 and beyond. All right, and then on success, we're going to send an event to the timer device to start the game. The mutator zone team loader to enable. This will allow the teams to be loaded, and the players within the zone, their teams will load. And then it's going to also send an event to the save point device to load the player. All right, mutator zones. Again, this is the mutator zone to load teams. And again, these options are optional. Make sure they match your, let's say you have a main mutator zone where you don't want them to build and that kind of thing. Make sure this is also on off to match your other mutator zone so that there's not a moment where they can build and everything, which will make things seem a little weird. So we can turn that off. Enable when receiving from the timer device team loader on success. And then when it's enabled on player entering zone, we're going to send an event to the message feed device to activate. And it's just going to show that teams have been loaded, and save point device to load the player. And that will load all players within the zone. And here's the message feed device. Again, this is optional. And we're going to activate when receiving from a mutator zone when the player is entering the zone. And that should be binded already if you have that already set up. Now we have our teleporter mutator zone. Let's check that out. And we're going to disable when receiving from when the first player spawns into the game. You definitely don't want this thing on. And it's also going to be off because you have it set to enabled on phase none. So that way it will not be active when the game starts. We're going to enable when receiving from timer device game start on success. And then on player entering zone, we're going to send an event to 2 teleporters, or as many teleporters as you have in your game. If you have one for each team, that's where they will go right here. So we have 2 teams, team 1, class 1, teleport, and team 2, class 2, teleport. We also have this new option. This was not here quite some time ago. So this is still fairly new. On agent entering zone, I went ahead and placed them both there as a fail-safe, just to make sure the event is being sent. So these kind of behave the same way as this one. At least I believe so. So be sure to do that. Let's say if you're having some issues, you can try putting this here, see if it makes a difference for you. And, give it a test. Now that we have this entire system here done, let's go ahead and move to teleporters. All right, this is team 1. We're going to enable when receiving from the first player spawning in the game. Teleport when receiving from that mutator zone when it's enabled. So on player entering zone, on agent entering zone. And should already be binded. And if you need to send events when they are teleported here, like, oh, you're on team 1, or let the games begin, whatever you want to do, you can put that here. All right. And then team 2. All right, there you go. That is the system. Let's go ahead and run another set of tests. Since at the beginning my mic was like off during the first portion, again, much apologies. So let's go ahead and get another player in here, and we can go ahead and do that. Lastly, while we're waiting for that player, I want to go over the island settings, which is really important too. Make sure you set your max and the number of teams that you're going to have in your game, including the global. That's very important. And team size needs to be set to dynamic because your devices will be setting your teams. Make sure your rounds match as many round devices as you have so that everything syncs properly. Okay? And you guys should be good. All right, let's go ahead and take a look at what you built and run a test. All right, first test is when players both choose the same team. All right, they're on team 1 and game starting in 3 seconds. And here we are. All right, game ending in 41 seconds. And let's move on to round 2. right, round 2, players are going to stay on the same team. And you see you're going to load team in 4 seconds. And now they're both on the same team as before. You can see the messages on the left-hand side there, team loaded, and now they're back here to play the game. All right, round 3, I'm going to split the teams, and I'm going to choose team 2. All right, so this time I'm going to choose to not stay on team 1. Now, as soon as I do that, my team's going to save. Now I'm on team 2, and I'm no longer on team 1. And we're on separate parts. See? So players are able to switch as long as they switch within the time frame. And you can see different variances and playtests at the beginning of this tutorial. So if you missed that, be sure to just rewind and check that out. There's no audio for a certain portion, my apologies. But you can see different scenarios of how the system is working, depending on if players, change their mind and they want to change teams at the last second, how that works, and that sort of thing. Other than that, look at what you guys built, man. You guys got this. You can put this together easily. It's probably going to take you, with following the tutorial, I don't know, probably about, let's say 30 minutes, right, mechanic-wise, and then you have to build the rest. As far as the rest, you got to work on your game win conditions and set up how you want your game to end. And exactly what the rest of your game structure will be. I do hope this has been helpful. And in addition, if you guys want to check out the main tutorial, it is on my channel. I'll link it down below once I'm done with this, and you can check it out in full detail. It's a little bit more complicated than this one, but you'll be able to pick up some key points and so forth. Again, thanks for making the request, Fishy, in the Creative Block Discord, and I do hope this helps. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!